multiple times now from the horse's mouth. And then that's another thing is like, how can we even accept the testing when the tests themselves have been shown to be questionable, and not just in the case of the coronavirus, but apparently in the case of HIV/AIDS and things like that, where it's just giving false positives, or we don't even know what the test is really saying. It's just basically you're taking the word of the technician, and you don't actually know how the test works at the end of the day.
I actually think that they use these tests in order to put different viruses and diseases into the people. That's so basically the topic of today, man. You know what it is. Let's talk about it. I really like this time. I really wanted to hear because all right, this how I'm gonna start off this topic because getting a message from you saying I don't like the state of the world right now are pretty serious words, man, coming from you because obviously, we all know the problems of the world and this and that, but for you to say such words, that meant, that rang off bells in my head, man. That sounded serious. And of course, I'm talking about coronavirus. Why did you say that? And what the heck is going on right now, man?
Well, what's your take on it, if I could ask first?
Listen, dude, there's so many different things. Just short, what I really think it is, that I first of all, I think that I think it's a financial uh, washout. Like they're rebooting things. I think that it was a biological weapon that they constructed a long time ago. They obviously, in my opinion, have thought this out meticulously for a long time, and basically to vaccinate and chip everybody, and that's what I personally think. So basically, again, I think it's an economic issue. They're rebooting. They're starting a whole completely different system of economics. Um, so yeah, basically that's what I think, man. So take it away, man.
Well, I agree with a lot of that. Obviously, there's the element. I mean, whatever people think about the legitimacy of the virus or the alleged virus, I mean, it's obvious that it should be obvious to everyone that there's a massive like state overreach going on, right? That they're using it as a pretext to just take a huge power grab away from people. I mean, just like the things going on are unprecedented, but it seems like that's not really bothering some people. I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like just on its face obvious, like beyond beyond explanation, almost like just it's the police will like, for example, the police will come up to you, get in your space, and arrest you for being in someone else's space. And how do people not see the hypocrisy in this? Like that this is just a tyranny.
My wife just said one world under one control.
Yeah, and then that's another thing. It's like that they coordinated this in every city in the world all at once, and it's so obvious that there's a central mind behind this whole program going on. Like,
We
how could
we
you
we
lock?
never seen this before.
Yeah, I mean, the Romans didn't lock down the whole world when they were in power, like the ancient Romans. I mean, because we're still kind of in a Roman system, but that's another story. So,
Right, right.
yeah, I mean, the Romans didn't do it like when the Greeks were ruling the world. They didn't lock down the whole world. They couldn't do that, not like this. So, but what is this deal with these different countries? Like people thinking we live in separate countries? Like that's not the case, because obviously they're all ruled by one force at this point,
The
and it's
colonies.
yeah, everything's a colony. It seems like everything's a colony from some central point of power, right? And it seems like they've literally just gone to war with their own. Like every little country and all over the world, they've imploded and turned against their own, their own so-called citizens. And the war is now against you and me and people. But they don't say that. They say it's a virus, but really you're the virus, right? You see what I'm saying? Like what it comes down to is you are the virus, we are the problem, right? You are the potential carrier, blah blah blah, right? So yeah, I mean that's just disturbing on its face. Like who knows, man? Who knows how far they'll take this?
One very important thing my wife said, she said that we are much more than those that are trying to control us.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have so much more power, but they convince us that we're powerless and we live in this learned helplessness state like little children, and they act like big daddy or big brother. Like, oh, we know what's good for you. Don't worry about it. You just stay at home now and don't go out, It's ridiculous. I mean, I literally watch the politicians on the television talking like you're talking to a child, like literally,
Right.
like you're talking to a child, to grown adults and grown folks,
So let me take you back to when all of this started unfolding. Can you remember like what was going through your head? Like, did you think that this was going to get to where it is now, or you didn't think much of it? Like, because we had Ebola and birds and all of this kind of stuff. Like, what were you thinking at the initial stages?
Yeah, because I was keeping an eye on China from the beginning, because I saw when they started to lock it down, I thought, whoa, that's really crazy. That's because Wuhan has 11 million people. That in
Humongous
itself,
city.
yeah, that in itself, to lock down a whole city, like a big cage,
Right.
is unprecedented, much less the world, mind you, but even a city like that is unprecedented. So that got my attention right off the bat. I never thought it would just blow up like that. I thought, okay, China's crazy, communists, like, yeah, we know what communists do, but is it really gonna just spread into the whole world like that? I didn't expect that. I don't think anyone saw that coming, except maybe the people who knew it was coming.
What's interesting is, I just lost my train of thought. But what's interesting is, it's crazy that you said that, right? That to take a whole city under siege, people don't get, like, it's a huge operation. But this is what I was going to say. Have you ever heard the TED talk from Bill Gates from 2015, and how he kind of, what people say, foresaw this? Have you ever heard about that?
What did he? Can you refresh my mind? Maybe I have.
So in 2015, Bill Gates basically comes out and he flat out says that, nuclear weapons and wars are not our problem. The next huge problem that's going to happen is going to be a worldwide pandemic where the whole world will shut down.
Yeah,
And
yeah, okay.
what do you know? 5 years later, because we know he's one of those guys. Again, my wife reminded me, that is pushing so hard the vaccination and, all these tests and all these different things idea. And then, have you heard about Agenda 201?
You mean, what's it called? Is it Plan 201? Is that what it's called?
Plan 201, something like that. Have you heard about it?
Yeah. Let me just figure out what it's called again.
So basically,
anyway, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Basically, the premise is that right before, and this is like a fact, that 2 months before all of this even unfolded in China, Bill Gates, under the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they have this drill where they talk about a coronavirus, taking over the world, man. infecting
Event 201, yeah, that's what it is.
Event
Sorry.
201, infecting every country.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was looking at the clips from that, and they literally had a coronavirus, that the same word and everything, that was taking over the world in this simulation. Just what, in like November, I think it was December, October last year, before all this happened.
I I wanted to ask you something very important you told me in the messages, and if obviously this is going, I'm going to cut these videos up and and eventually post it also in entirety. But you said a very important thing, and if you could please share this with us and whoever's going to watch it. You said there is no such thing as a virus. Can you go into that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to further discussion on that. I mean, but just from my point of view at this point in time, anyone telling me that, there's this coronavirus and it's causing this disease and so forth, I think that all those statements are unfounded. I haven't seen any proof of it. Like, for instance, I would just ask, like, okay, how do you know a virus exists? What is a virus? How do you know? How do you know that viruses cause disease? Let's say they do exist. How do you know they cause disease if they do exist? And finally, how do you know that there is only one disease called coronavirus, and all these people getting sick, it's all from one cause? How do we know that? And none of those things have been answered. So, and that I put that up in the air because I've seen a lot of uh, over the process of kind of looking into this for a few years, I've seen a lot of refutations of the germ theory of disease itself, from its very origins, like in the 1800s, when they started looking at germs under a microscope and trying to figure out what this was. It wasn't so clear that, hey, these little microbes are actually causing disease, right? There was many different what do you call it? Perspectives that people had on what these things were, what they did, etc. And it seems like Louis Pasteur, he was the one who he became the cream of the crop, because he got a lot of money at the end of the day, and he became the voice of the germ theory, and this idea that, okay, germs cause disease, and this new paradigm of medicine came to the world. Okay, the way we cure disease is we go to war. We have to go to war with the germs. How do we do that? We cut you, we poison you, we burn you, because there's these little germs, you see, and we have to destroy them. So we're gonna cut you and burn you and poison you just so to get rid of these germs, and then you'll be healthy. And that's what it seems like that's where we are today, in my opinion. And that it's like the proof is in the pudding, because everyone's just sicker and sicker and sicker. So how is any of this, if it's supposed to be true, wouldn't it be having some fruits, like, to show for it, like, of healing and the world getting healthier instead of sicker?
Whenever I talk, it's crazy that you say that, because whenever I talk to, like, doctors, that is the first thing, or anybody arguing, for being vaccine pro, that is the first thing that I tell them. I'm like, tell me one thing. In the past 100 years, we as a society, world as a whole, have we been getting healthier or sicker? And the answer is obvious. We've been getting sicker with not only with each generation, but with each year. Are you there?
Yeah.
Because, like me and my wife talked about this, 50 years ago, our granddaddies, they would probably be like, all right, give me the coronavirus, man. They, in a couple days, they sweat it out, spit it out, work it out, whatever, it's gone, just as an example, man. Or like the flu or whatever, But nowadays, we are not even, after GMO and antibiotics and vaccines and all this, we are not even capable of, like, people are dying from the flu, man.
Yeah, and I think this might be nothing more than the flu. Basically, they're just hyping up flu deaths, potentially. I mean, there is a lot of information that comes straight from, the horse's mouth, like the UK government or the CDC or, whatever, mainstream media, and it is science journals. Anthony Fauci, the guy who is, the right-hand man of this whole agenda with Donald Trump and locking down America.
I made a video about him, but it's interesting. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all saying, it seems like on the inside they're saying something different than what they're saying on the outside to the media. They're saying on the inside that, hey, this whole coronavirus, it doesn't really have much of a death rate. It's not very dangerous, and the tests and the way the casualties are tallied, it's very biased. I mean, in Italy, a mainstream media, it reports 90% of people who died, they say, okay, this person died of coronavirus, right? Blah, 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 chalk it up on the statistics. Well, when you look into that, 90% of those people were already sick with other complicating factors. They were already very ill people to begin with. And someone just gave them some test when they were probably dying, and they said, oh, you got coronavirus. The test says so. And then they died. It could have been diabetes, and they'll just say, oh, he died from coronavirus. And that's actually admitted multiple times now from the horse's mouth. And then that's another thing is how can we even accept the testing when the tests themselves have been shown to be questionable, and not just in the case of the coronavirus, but apparently in the case of HIV, AIDS, and things like that, where it's just giving false positives, or we don't even know what the test is really saying. It's just basically you're taking the word of the technician, and you don't actually know how the test works at the end of the day.
I actually think that they use these tests in order to put different viruses and diseases into the people. That's why when we start to see the statistic of people infected and people that are dying, we're only seeing a small percentage of people that they say that were actually cured. And and you start thinking to yourself. So I think that they use these tests before vaccination in order to get more people infected. I just want to share real quickly what my wife said. She said a very interesting thing. She said they built prisons for us, exercising those rights since birth, starting with the hospitals where they drug us down, then schools which look like prisons, then cubicles which look like prisons, then houses which look like crap but cost like a mansion, made us believe in hell, which we tend to exist in and be okay with that. So anyway, I just wanted to share what she said. I thought it was pretty interesting, man.
Yeah, it's like a prison world. Whoa, sorry, 1 sec. Sorry, 1 sec. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I got a video here that I played. It's blocking my audio. Sorry about that. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were sharing something and then it stopped.
Yeah, I wanted to show you this because you were saying something and I was like, wow, you got to see this article real quick. You see that?
Coronavirus terrors bound for UK become contained with corona. Yeah, well, see, this is something that I always say in my videos, that the English-speaking world, they miss out on information that other countries are talking about, like, the Russians, the Belarusians, the Ukrainians. There are some really interesting articles and things that people have been talking about. And I'm actually going to tell you the brand new theory of what this is a little bit later. But going back to what I initially said, going back to your words that you messaged, because I kind of felt the tone of your words. You said, I don't like where all of this is headed. What did you mean, and why did it make you so serious about this?